Tonight Show host Jimmy Fallon once said, "The debt crisis still isn't solved, but yesterday the White House revealed that it's working on a plan B. Unfortunately, the B stands for bake sale." Thankfully, we as the affirmative team have a better plan, better than just a bake sale. Our plan to recognize China's debt would uphold international law, help our economy, and end a dangerous double standard that's existing in the current system. In this second affirmative speech, I'd like to go down the flow of the negative team, and first of all talk to you about how our plan is justified under 2 points. First of all, justified under law, and second, justified under precedent. First of all, let's look at this international law that China is violating. According to the American Bondholders Foundation in 2016, it's a violation of successor government doctrine. Quote, "It is well established as a matter of international law that a successor government is responsible for the payment of sovereign debt obligation of a predecessor government," unquote. Another piece of evidence to support this from attorney Riney Green, who has a JD from the University of Virginia. He said in 2003 that the established and widely recognized government of a nation is liable under international law for the full faith and credit obligations of the established and widely recognized predecessor government of that same nation. And then underneath that piece of evidence, it shows that that's from the third restatement of the Foreign Relations Law of the United States, section 712, and also Creditors' Claims in International Law, volume 34, page 235. So if the negative team would like to see this evidence, these are the exact international laws that we're dealing with. Our plan is justified under law. But secondly, it's also justified under precedent, which, as if you're familiar with law, is almost as important as the law itself. The first example of precedent is that of Britain. The American Bondholders Foundation said in 2017, it's not like there isn't precedence for China actually paying back the money they owe from past Chinese government debt. In 1987, threatened with being kept out of British financial markets, China acknowledged the debt it owed from the sale of these exact same bonds to British investors, unquote. So we can see that there's historical precedence for a plan actually happening with the country of Britain. This piece of evidence even says that it's the exact same bonds with which we are recognizing today. The second piece of precedent I'd like to bring up from the 1AC is that there have been more than 47 previous successful debt settlements. According to Jana Bianco, she says that there have been more than 47 previous bond settlements by our government. The United States government recognized the successor government doctrine of international law and told those governments, you have some outstanding debts owed to Americans and to our government, and we recommend that you come to the table and negotiate a settlement. Czechoslovakia, Bulgaria, and Poland, among 47 others, have honorably come to the table and resolved their outstanding financial obligations. China has yet to do that, and the United States has yet to tell them that they need to, unquote. So what we can see is that this has happened before in the past, not only with Britain, but with 47 other governments, where our exact agency has done this. The only reason China hasn't paid us back our debt yet is that we have not officially asked them to do so or recognize that debt. And that's exactly what we would be doing as the affirmative team. I'd like to move on to my last and third example of precedent, that of Iraq. The Global Security Watch in the Committee on International Relations in the United States House of Representatives says the People's Republic of China publicly mandates that international law be upheld in Iraq, where the PRC is owed significant money. How hypocritical can the leaders of the PRC be, where on one hand they demanded that Iraq honor its debt from a prior government, and on the other hand, they choose to ignore international law when it comes to honoring China's financial obligations to American citizens. So this third example of precedent really shows that China itself acknowledges this international law and has even used this exact same international law against the country of Iraq. So our plan of recognizing and demanding this debt is justified not only under law, but also by precedent with some very convincing examples. I'd like to move on and respond to the negative team's arguments. Their first main argument, which really encompassed a lot of their points, was really, will China actually negotiate? Can we force our plan to happen? Now, I'd like to clarify that we, frankly, don't have the power to make China accept our plan. The negative team has set an impossible standard for us if they're asking us to prove beyond a shadow of the doubt that China will actually do this. No matter, even if we had evidence saying that they would, there's no guarantee that we could actually prove this. We cannot prove 100% that China will negotiate. But here's what we can prove. I believe that it is reasonable to expect that they will do this. And this is because, as I just showed, it's precedent under international law. We should stand on that international law and still recognize and still demand that debt, whether or not we have a guarantee that China will accept it. I believe that is a matter of principle. Next, I'd like to move on to the burden that the negative team talked about. They read a piece of evidence from our 1AC for one of our justifications, saying that Americans would only benefit if these debts were selectively repaid on discount. And I'd simply like to clarify that that's essentially what negotiations would do. I'd like to clarify our plan in another way. What our plan would be doing is recognizing the debt that China owes, and then there are two options. Either China does come to the negotiations table to work out as a payment plan, which would include selectively repaying bonds on discount, or their credit rating will be dropped. And I'd like to respond to their credit rating point at this time as well. The simple fact is that if you don't repay your debts, your credit rating score will go down. This is true whether you're a person buying a house, a car, simply with a credit card, or if you're an international country. It automatically and naturally will happen both in the current system and after our plan. I'd like to read a piece of evidence to support this from Rosamund Hunt. She said in 2015, to anyone unfamiliar with the workings of rating agencies, their grades are really just ways of marking borrowers, whether companies or governments, on their credit worthiness and telling buyers of debt how likely they are to be paid back. That's the purpose of a credit rating, really showing investors whether or not this country has really been faithful with their debts in the past. So after our plan, if we recognize that China has not paid the $750 billion, it's reasonable, logical, and natural, supported by evidence, to assume that their credit rating will go down because they haven't paid back this debt. And this will reflect poorly on China because it will show investors that they're not a trustworthy person to actually invest in because they default and don't pay back their debts. I'd like to move on to the argument about Taiwan that the negative team said. They said that the Republic of China used to be in China, but now it's in Taiwan, and that Taiwan's actually responsible for paying back our debt. My simple question is, where's the evidence? If that really is true, why do 40 representatives and 20,000 Americans believe that it's China's responsibility to pay back this debt? Why does every single source in our 1AC and every single piece of evidence that we've read talk about China? The truth is because the debt that we're talking about really transferred from that old government to China, not the Republic of China, which is Taiwan. So we see that the fact that it's trailed into China is supported by all our evidence and international law. What the negative team is talking about is when China and Taiwan effectively split up. It used to all be the Republic of China, and then it split into the Republic of China and the People's Republic of China. But instead of following the name, the debt actually followed to the People's Republic of China. Even though Taiwan technically has the name of the Republic of China, they're not the ones responsible for this debt. I'd lastly like to address the example of Argentina. The negative team brought up one example from 2005 of Argentina. My simple response is that it's not the same agency. The agency that we'll be using with our plan has been successful 47 times, and although debt settlements don't always work, again, that's an impossible standard for the negative team to say this won't work just because it didn't work with Argentina. There's no link to show how specifically those two examples are linked. Lastly, I'd like to explain our justifications. Our first justification, the reason why you should pass our plan, is because we have a legal obligation to act, not only under international law, but also American law. The second justification of Americans' benefit, sure, it only happens if China actually pays back this debt. We're willing to admit this. And again, we cannot guarantee that China will pay back this debt. But we do believe it is reasonable to assume because it's justified by law and justified by precedent. Thank you.
Hi, Catherine. Now, my first question for you is in general, a government responsible for the debts of another existing country?
If that debt involves the United States or that government, then I do believe that they have a valid concern. If it's two separate countries, then absolutely not.
Okay. Now, can I see the piece of evidence you read about the international law?
Sure.
All right. Thank you. Now, how much did China owe Britain in the 1912 bond example?
We don't have a specific number of how much it was, but it was the exact same bonds that we're talking about today.
Okay. Now, did you read evidence saying it was the exact same bonds?
Yes.
Were they purchased at the same time?
Yes.
All right. Interesting.
You can have that.
Is it the top one or the bottom one?
The top piece.
Top piece? Okay, thanks. Now, so if China does not pay back bondholders, their credit rating decreases, as you're touching, right?
Right. That's naturally what happens.
China has already defaulted on these bonds, right?
Actually, no, there's no record of them defaulting because we've never officially recognized. That's what our plan would be doing.
Default is when you don't pay back the bond, right?
Right, but this
So
debt isn't even
effectively,
recognized
China
in the
has
current
defaulted.
system.
In effect, China has defaulted, right?
Not officially, no.
Interesting. Did you read any evidence saying China's not officially defaulted?
Yes, I did. I said that my piece of evidence says that China has yet to do that and the United States government has yet to tell them to do so because we haven't officially recognized that.
Doesn't that mean the United States government has just failed to tell them to repay back the bonds?
Exactly. They have failed to do that, and that's why we are passing our plan.
So in practice, China has defaulted on these bonds?
No, but no credit agencies actually recognize that or take that into account because it hasn't been officially recognized.
Interesting. Now, so if a credit rating would automatically decrease after default, right?
Yes.
Okay. Now, could I see a specific piece of evidence about a lock?
Sure.
Alright. And then, now talking about the Britain example, how did Margaret Thatcher in this instance implement the bond repayment? How did she enforce
They entered
it?
into negotiations.
Okay, so it was entirely through negotiations. There was no enforcement mechanism.
The enforcement would have been a part of the negotiations. I believe specifically with the Britain example, they were also negotiating over things
And it
such
was
as
a
Hong
different
Kong.
negotiation agency than the United States, right?
Yes, because it was in Britain.
Okay, thanks. I have no questions.